Hey guys, it's Victoria, and on This Week with Groupies with the Band, Kenzie was able to sit down with one of the band members of Easy Honey. I hope you guys enjoy.
I'm Kenzie.
Kenzie, okay.
Kenzie.
Thanks for having us slash me. Sometimes if the guys aren't all free, I'm happy to jump on here and talk about anything.
Well, I'm glad that at least you were up to do it, because sometimes if no one can do it, everyone's just like, who cares?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I talk a lot, so it works out.
Perfect. I know that you just told me your name, but do you want to repeat your name and then your age, where you're from, and then your position in the band?
Yes, I'm from Tennessee. I'm from Memphis. My name's Webster. Selby and I's last name is Austin, and we're both from there. And then we all went to school in Tennessee and met at a school called Swanee. It's a little liberal arts, really small, tiny school, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I play bass, and it's interesting. I'm the last to join the band, so
okay.
You know, I always felt like I was like a fan of the band before I joined it, so it's easy for me to do these things because I can level with anyone who is interested in us for any reason and be like, yeah, I like that too. I like your Doors poster, by the way. Quick shout out.
Thank you. You're the first person who's mentioned that poster.
I'm the first or fourth?
First. I've had a few interviews and he's been in the background and you're the first person to ever say anything about it.
Yeah. The Doors are they get a little bit of a bad rap. I'm trying to think why. Well, I don't know. They're really unique. I think they get a little bit of a bad rap for just being like, oh, Jim was crazy and he was that guy. He was like a narcissist and stuff. But even without Jim, the music was so crazy cool. And it's so unique sounding. And all those guys are like monster players. And then he's like a monster frontman. So they're one of my favorite bands, really.
Yeah.
Because my dad, I don't know if your parents got rid of all of their vinyl or if they're at the age where they even listen to vinyl, but everyone got rid of it in the 80s.
Yeah.
And anyways, this was this one, all of his Doors records were at this little farm we have in Mississippi in the attic, and I found them. I was like, these are the coolest things ever. I'm 12 or whatever. This is so cool. And I just became obsessed with them for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And anyways,
that's kind of, I was gonna say that's how I became obsessed with Kiss. My mom had Kiss on vinyl and she gave that to me, and that was my first ever thing that I had on vinyl. And
oh, nice.
It got me started on all the music now.
Yeah. That's what's so cool, how I think about that with us now, how people come to find our music, whether it's, we're some people's first concert, and that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And you'll just always be with them no matter what, which is it's a great responsibility, but an honor for us. And I actually was able to go to, this is my last thing about Jim Morrison. I was able to go to his grave over in Paris.
Oh my God.
And it's pretty sweet. Especially then when I was pretty into the band.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool, it's at this really old cemetery, and a bunch of famous people like Oscar Wilde and the composer Chopin are buried there. And there's someone else who's it's 10, 20 really famous people are buried there. And it's a beautiful cemetery. So if you ever go to Paris and want to do something that's a little off the beaten path,
yeah,
I recommend that.
Go see Jim Morris. Just hanging out.
Just hanging out.
Yeah.
How did you hear about us, by the way?
I was actually just about to bring that up. I heard about you guys because I went and saw the Dune Dogs opened for you at the press room in Portsmouth over this past summer.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, some of my family members know them, so we went to go see them open
Oh,
for
cool.
you, and then we stayed for you guys, and me and my
Cool.
friends really liked you and just kept going with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Well, thanks for staying. Like that room, that was our first time there, and that room really like sounded amazing. It's someone just sank like a ton of money into that place,
Yeah.
and it felt like so good on stage. And sorry, let me send this to voicemail. It felt so good on stage, and we were with who were we with it? We had like a videographer with us, and I guess it was Grant, our friend. We're about to take him to Hawaii too, but you know, like it's nice having either a tour manager or just someone else who's not in the band on the road with you, because sorry, I didn't mean to have that off. Because they can just offer like an outsider perspective. Like you might be in your head like, oh, that show was really great, or oh, it was really bad, and they're like, no, like it felt awesome out here. And that was a show where noticeably he was standing like just in the room in sound check, and like he was like, that sounded like I'm listening to a record.
No, the energy from that like show was amazing. I've never seen, like, I've been to a few concerts in my life, and like I have never seen energy so ecstatic from people in there. Like it was great.
We love to hear that. That's a word that we get complimented on a lot, our energy, and we love that. It's funny, I was in a band before this one, and like we were all good players, but it's like a band, your first like real band is almost like your first real girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever friend you have, where like you don't really know what you're doing and you're kind of just like blah blah blah. But so we didn't really know what we were doing, but my friend in the band who like he was just like, he was kind of, I was the front man of that band, he was the other co-front man, interestingly enough, and he's like, doesn't matter if you play the wrong notes if the energy's good. And I was like, no, you got to be good too, and like play the right notes and then like have the good energy. But it's almost like the more and more I play, I realize how right he was, that it really just is about the energy.
I feel like if you have the confidence, you can do anything. Like, I feel like so many people say that, but it's so true.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that at that time I didn't have the confidence of playing enough to be experienced enough to, and some people are just born with, like Jim Morrison just like has it right out of the gate, but some people gain it after a few shows, and you know, it's so true to just know. I mean, people ask us like if we're nervous or something before playing, and if we're nervous, it's not about the show. Like it's just about like random other things going on, or like if some equipment's not working.
Yeah.
Like it's never about like how the song sounds, because we know we can lean into that. And like we started saying something new, just about like kind of holding each other, like cradling each other on stage. Like someone plays a bad note or like says something that's like makes them sound like a I don't know, a dumbass or something. You're just like, you're right. You got to right there be with them. And it's the old adage is kind of like, if someone plays a note and then you play something behind that, it'll change the quality of the chord or like the quality of the tone, and then it'll make it right. And that's really like all we're doing up there. And that's what's really beautiful about it. And anyways.
Well, it's kind of like how your fans supposed to be confident in your music if you're not confident in it. So like even if you mess up but you're able to kind of carry yourself through that, your fans can see that and be like, oh, I love them.
Yeah, I know. Well put, Kenzie. But thanks for. I'm pleased to know that you were at that show. We'll probably come back. I think in like the late summer or so.
Yeah.
Early fall, maybe.
I think that would be really fun. I know that some of my friends, we've all been talking about wanting to see you guys again. So definitely try to make your way back there.
Well, great. I mean, that's the goal. And like, the more we play, the more we realize, and that's kind of, I don't know if you watched our movie, our little mini doc that we made last summer about that tour, which features, I think, some footage from that show, like a little clip or something. But when you're kind of growing as a band, you go through just the ups and downs of city to city, because, like, for instance, you know, we might have like a ton of fans in one town and it's a great show, or Matt might have a ton of people come to a show in one town and it's not as good of a show because like maybe they're there for some other reason, or like, but it's just a lot of like psychological, weird, energetic ups and downs. And that was kind of like the idea of the movie, is that kind of is like mirrored in like surfing and waves. And, you know, kind of one of our phrases is like, the best wave is the one you're on, you know? And so I guess where I'm going with this is like, you know, for instance, that show, we probably were like, I don't know, I think something weird was going, I could totally tell you this whole other story of like other weirdness going on, but like, you kind of fight through it and like I said, hold each other. And in that way, the audience is like bought in to being there for you and with you, like whatever journey you're going on with the show. And that's kind of a microcosm a little bit of just like the greater journey of the band. But yeah, like people are more, if you play some of those shows that like, I mean, that wasn't a huge show by any means, but like the people, if you give it your all and like you said, like are confident in what you're doing, everyone in the room buys in. And that's sometimes way better than if you play like to a lot more people who are just like there to like be with their friends or something, you know?
Yeah, the people where it's like a sold out arena and people are just like bopping their head. They're not like really getting into it. They're just kind of like, oh, this is cool, I guess.
Yeah, I've been to an arena show for one of my favorite bands like in the last year, and I've seen this band a couple of times, and it was my least favorite show because I was in an arena. And I mean, I'm all for like being in big crowds, but there's something about like being able to like sit or stand, and then like sometimes those are really great, don't get me wrong, it's just about like the context. But it's almost weird, the idea that you can like go get a beer or like go to the bathroom and just come back to your spot like that. You almost shouldn't even be able to do that.
No,
you know what I mean?
There's been plenty of concerts I've had to like queue for like 3 hours, and I'm like, okay, I know I can't go to the bathroom, I know I can't go get a drink, I have to sit and stand here until the show is over because I know someone is killing to take my spot.
I know, it's a that kind of just comes with the territory, and that's kind of the beauty of it, you know? It's like, and if you get back there and you find your friends again, that's awesome. Like that's kind of a cool triumph story. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the idea. I'm kind of hitting a lot of points off of this, but that's kind of the idea of the band, is like anything, there's nothing easy about Honey, and anything, you got to go through like a lot of hard stuff to get to the Honey. And so it's kind of that same idea of like, if, you know, let's just say you're at a concert and you're on a bunch of drugs for some reason and you have to go to the bathroom, and you go on a journey, or like maybe you just need a sip of water, you go get a sip of water, and like it's this whole journey, and you run into some people and maybe you dance with them on the way back, and then you get back to your friends, and it's like a glorious moment. Like that's kind of what it's about, you know?
One of my best friends I actually met at a concert because we were the only two actually getting into the concert and like dancing, and we've been best friends like ever since. So I think if the energy is good enough, you can have a great time and meet a lot of people who will like stay with you, whether you talk to them after or if it's just like a memory that stays with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. And like, you know, I mean, all artists who like do this, they start out as fans and like see that, and we're still fans, like of a ton of people. But you see that go down, and like you're like have such great associations around bands, and it's been really cool for us. It kind of just starts out as like, you know, your parents and your friends are your fans, and then like your cousins, like nephew is your fan, and then it just slowly becomes people who have no reason to like you other than that they just like your music or have seen a show or something, and then they start liking you. And I tell this to anyone who's maybe like a little not behind on the path, but a little maybe not as far down the path as like we are, and we're very, you know, shallow on the path, like, but that it makes it a lot easier because you can you kind of just, you still do what you do and just follow your muse, but it's just easier to like have some people out there who aren't like your, like I said, your cousin or somebody be like, yeah, the new song sounds great. It's nice. And it kind of helps because you can sort of see what types of people like you. And not that really matters, but you can kind of just be like, hey, like, this is a cool community that we've created, and like we're doing something right, you know?
Yeah. It's kind of like some people will start off, whether it's like a house show or like posting videos like on the internet, and it's kind of, it's something that some people have it to where they start to grow very, very quickly. They could grow within the next couple of months or like the next year. And then there's other people who it takes years to kind of get where they are. And I feel like you guys have gotten to like a sweet spot where it's like you are known enough that a lot of people will come to your show, or they will listen to your music and know your music and they enjoy it, but you also kind of still have like that piece of not like having people coming at you all the time about your music.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we are at an interesting point right now, like you said, but it, you know, to your point, there are a lot of bands that, most bands that, you know, you think have like this overnight meteoric, you know, success, but almost like 95% of the time that's not the case. And like, they've been around in some form or another, and then just some stars align, or like something happens, and then everyone knows them all of a sudden. You're like, oh, like, and that's kind of what's, you know, what's kind of cool about it. But I think you realize pretty quickly that like you don't like count on that or anything. You do what you do and like work really hard and be true to the art. And it's like these small little, I've heard other people talk about it. It's like these small little successes, you know, like that you just build on, because that's the only thing you can control. Like you can't really do anything else. You just make your art and do the best to get it heard if that's what you want. And so.
Because kind of like what you said, where people believe that like bands blow up overnight. Like what you said earlier, there are multiple people who have been in multiple bands, or there's bands who have like rotated members within the group before they kind of found the correct sound and like the correct people that they want to play with. And you said that you were like one of the last members to join Easy Honey.
Yeah.
How did you get kind of like roped into the group?
Well, like I said, I'm the younger brother of Selby, who's one of the singers, and we've always played. It's really funny because like I saw with this we're working on a new album. It's not announced yet, but we just put out the first song today from it. And I'm trying to think, the guy who was the main producer on the album is one of our kind of like childhood friends who Selby was in a band with in high school. And we went a long time, like we were in touch, but we didn't really I'm trying to think how to put it. We kind of like rekindled our friendship. and just like we're trying him out to record, and he lived in Nashville, and it just was kind of like this return to making music when there's no consequence, like when you're in middle school and when you're younger and when you're in high school. When you make music, it's really free to make it because you're just doing it purely like, after you did your homework or instead of your homework or whatever. And you just make it to make it how you like it. And so what often happens with artists is that they get to the point where like, it's their job, but that's where a lot of people run into the problem is like, you can't treat it like it's your job. And you can't treat it like you're trying to make money from it, because as soon as like you do that, it becomes not pure, And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of music out there that's not pure, that's really great too. But I guess what I'm saying here is with this return to making music with this friend, it just felt like kind of like, I don't want to say coming home, but it just felt like a return to that feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of, honestly, talking to you right now about this has made me like draw a lot of connections. So the album's name is Cupidity Unlimited. And it's basically about this idea of, we didn't have like that name until the album was said and done, but we're like, what could this mean? And it kind of means like maintaining the spirit of youth and like infancy and like childlike playfulness, even into the era of like coming of age, and something that we're experiencing, and so it's kind of like about, I would say, that's sort of the architecture of the album. And I guess what I'm saying here is I don't really know why I was talking about that guy. Oh, I know why. Because I found a picture that guy posted like 10 years ago. This was even before I really I started on bass and then went to guitar for a long time. This was in my guitar playing years. And I was holding the bass, and I'm standing next to my brother, and he took this picture 10 years ago. And I'm like, I can't even believe it. And so that's just a little backstory, long way of answering your question of then I had my own band in college, and the guys had moved to Charleston from Tennessee, and their bass player was kind of just not working out, and they needed someone, and they were about to start touring really hard, kind of post-COVID, because they were about to like really start touring, and COVID happened. So then they did like the live stream game for a long time. Yeah. And then as COVID was letting up, that's kind of when I was getting out of school. So I just like hopped right in, kind of. I did do a little bit of a tryout, to see if they liked me, but and I don't know if they still like me or anything, but I'm just joking. But it's working out so far. So that's how I've been roped into it, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a sweet story, though. Most people are like, some people I've talked to, they've been like, oh, well, there was an ad on like Facebook Marketplace, and I just accepted the ad. But your story and kind of how it feeds into the new album you guys are going to be coming out with, it's like a very like sweet thing. I feel like it makes it more meaningful that you guys have a very strong background all together and a very strong relationship, and it kind of ties into the album, which I think is going to make people appreciate it more.
Yeah. And just, even like your people you talk to who had the ad, found the ad on Facebook or something, they still have their stories still just as valid. Not saying that you were saying this or not, but it's just kind of about how you perceive it. They could be like, I had a tragic event happen and then got on Facebook for the first time in 6 years and had this ad, and it was destiny, you know? So, anyway, thanks for that.
Yeah. Speaking of your guys' album, you mentioned that you came out with a new song today, and it's called Homesick, right?
That is correct, yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the song?
Yeah, sure. So, the song, it really feeds in nicely to all that stuff we were talking about, and it's a little bit about, we've joked about with some of the producers we work with, like, everyone, they like kind of write their first album, and it's like about their lives, and then they go and like tour that album, and then they like really spend a lot of time on the road, and then they write, we joke, like every artist has the road album, and it's like I have a great video, Selby saying this in an interview, and he's like, yeah, like not every song has to be like, this old highway gas station sucks. Like, I've been meaning to post about it, but so, kind of the idea for the song was, we have been touring really heavily. And anyways, sorry, said brothers text me if I'm getting a little distracted. But so the thing is that the song, we have been touring a lot, and naturally kind of having those feelings of being homesick, you know. And so in a lot of ways it made sense, but I'm trying to think. We kind of guised it in a story. We were kind of hanging out in where were we hanging out? Some cabin that we recorded this song in, and I think Darby had the riff. Darby's one of the singers, and we just kind of went outside, and like he had like a little bit of a melody, and we we're like, okay, let's write the lyrics, and it's just kind of how we were feeling at the time. We guised it in sort of we're all big fans of like Spanish culture, like Spain Spanish culture.
Yeah.
And so we were like, you know, Don Quixote. So we kind of like, we're like, let's just set it there. And well, maybe there was a phrase about Don Quixote. Well, this kind of ties in back to what I was saying about the album, is that there's a phrase, I'm trying to think how to put this. This is really my first time talking about it, so forgive me. But Don Quixote, kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with that story, but he was basically like a wannabe knight, you know. He wanted, and it's all of like his fantasy. Like there's a quote about like, I think this is actually where it started. There's some phrase that's like, a tilter at windmills, and meaning a tilter at windmills means when you're on a horse and you're jousting, you tilt down and hit the other person. But in this case, it's an allusion to when he sees these windmills, he thinks that they're like monsters or like dragons or something. He's supposed to slay them. But so it's kind of an expression about like, you know, fighting something that's not even there, you know? And I think I really like that expression. I can't remember where I found it or read it. But it's sort of like, it was a great jumping off point for us to be like, okay, like Don Quixote, like he's kind of he's a daydreamer essentially. And he's like, yeah, you know, we love that idea of fantasy, and we love that idea of like our rock and roll life, that even in the mundane driving or like whatever kind of like shatters some of the illusion of how the life is, we love keeping like the dream, you know. It's like, why do you do it? It's about kind of the dream. And so that you realize like when you find those Jim Morrison records or something, like it's like opens up worlds to you. And so that was kind of the first line is Central Spain, and then we just kind of jumped off from there. I could tell you about every line in the song, but at least what it means to me. But that's kind of the jumping off point, and that's how it kind of ties into being homesick. Is like, you know, and the album as a whole is like keeping that fantasy and not to call it a fantasy really, but like keeping the spirit alive, so to speak.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Kind of like, I feel like people don't talk about kind of like what you were saying, the dream. I feel like people kind of get away from it. Their main goal is to just like be famous and to kind of just like push their music and have it out there. But no one talks about what it means to kind of have your music out there. And I feel like you kind of like described it perfectly.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean that's I appreciate you asking, because it just kind of connected some things. It's like one of those things you know, but then you say it. And I'd kind of forgotten about it, and that's one of the things that's interesting about releasing music is that usually you don't like record it and then put it out the next day. It goes through a long process of like, what are we going to do with this song? And you kind of forget about it. The initial spark, in a very parallel sense to how you forget about the initial spark of like why you do what you do. And that goes for anything. It doesn't matter if it's music or sailing or something.
You're kind of saying like you need a little something to kind of remind you of that, to kind of like bring you back to not like your roots, but bring you back to like why you're doing what you're doing in the first place.
Correct.
Yeah. And are you saying like that song is kind of your thing that kind of triggered it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's like us coming to terms with that and like how we're dealing with it. And you know, if you have any follow-up questions, I could tell you like why each line kind of points to that. And that's why I think it really is a successful song for me, and not in terms of like charts or anything.
Yeah.
But it's a successful song in saying what we want to say, because when you can have a song where like everything, every line, every melody, every let's just say like asset of the song serves it's what we're wanting to say, it's a strong song. Yeah. It's funny, like you offshore, you know, we have a manager and a couple of people that work for us in like different capacities and tour managers and all these people, but sometimes when you do stuff like that, you just got to make sure it's right, you know. And anyways, not to bore you, but Hawaii, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that was like my last question for you, was the whole Hawaii experience that's coming up.
Okay, great. So we're going to post a video about it tomorrow, about the why, and I might just text it to you, but because it explains it pretty well.
Yeah.
And it'll probably explain it better than I will explain it. But basically, a quick 30-second version of it is like the movie we made, which I was referencing earlier, the surf film. Our manager was out in California, and our manager surfs. He and his brother, they're both managers, and they both surf. And they were out there. And I don't know if they met at a festival or how they actually met. I think at a music festival. But they were out there for a couple of weeks and met this guy named John Cruz and his wife. And they showed him the movie. And they were like, this is so awesome that like a band is doing stuff like this. We should bring them to Hawaii, like, and kind of like have them be my guest. And this guy is like, he's like the guy in Hawaii, so to speak. He's just super famous over there, and he's native Hawaiian, and that's pretty much how it happened. Like, so he's like, hey, you know, I'm able to get these guys, you know, like hooked up with like places to stay and flights and stuff, so we can bring them over there. And So it's a cool relationship, and then I think in return, like he's gonna play some more shows. Like he's playing at Bottle Rock Fest, if you know that fest. It's in California. It's a big deal festival.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like he's friends with all of like the famous people that go out to Hawaii and like hang out on Maui and stuff. He's like friends with like all the famous surfers, the Jack Johnsons, the Jackson Browns. Believe it or not, it was funny. Yeah, I don't know if you remember during COVID, there's that video where Robbie Robertson and like Ringo are playing The Weight, and it's like people playing from around the world.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I
It was like
remember
a big
that.
deal. It was a big deal when it came out because everyone's like, oh, it's so inspiring. Like everyone's playing together. And, you know, Darby, our guitarist, was watching it the other day, and he told me this like 3 days ago. He's like, yeah, it's just like, what's happening watching that? And then there's John Cruz like singing the second verse, you know, with all those guys. And like, it's pretty incredible. He's just like, he's, I don't know if you'd say Hawaiian royalty, but most importantly, he just seems like a great person. We haven't actually met him in person yet. But he seems like a great person, and we're really excited to meet him. I think Selby, my brother's talked to him on the phone a few times. And I think we're going to do collab on a song together. And he's got a like amazing voice.
Wow.
Check his music out on Spotify, John Cruz. And I'll send you this video.
Okay.
I'll email it to you. That kind of explains it a little better than I did, but it's we're super excited, and we're leaving I guess in like a day or two, and it's our first time flying anywhere to play, so that's kind of a milestone for us. And
have you guys just like road tripped everywhere else?
Yeah, it's always get in the van and pack the trailer and drive to shows, you know. So it's our first time doing that, so we're kind of figuring out the ins and outs of that, but it'll probably be the first of many, so we'll try to get it right the first time around, you know.
Are you guys staying there for like a few days?
We'll be there for like 11 or 12 days.
Oh wow, you guys are gonna be there for like over a week.
Yeah, so if you have any friends, it's really funny. Like we've had a couple people buy tickets to go out and see us, like, you know, using it as their vacation too, obviously. But like, they're like, I mean, it makes me want to like tear up. Like one guy was like, he saw us play out in Colorado. He's like, I just want to let you guys know I just bought tickets for my girlfriend and I, and we're coming to see you in Hawaii. Like, I'm like, that is amazing. And, you know, but we're really serendipitously, a lot of people are like out there that we just didn't know were out there are going to be out there, who've seen us, you know, randomly. So, yeah, if you have any friends out there, let them know we're coming.
It's kind of one of those, like, we made it moments when people are like, oh my God, like, I'm flying out, or I flew out to see you. And you're like, oh my God. You're like, you flew out to see me?
It's pretty crazy. And we've had that even in the States. Like, you know, we've been touring for about 2 years. And we kind of saw it in the Midwest, like, we've been to New York a few times because we're able to like get up there easier. You know, we could probably play New York like once or twice a year. But like the Midwest, it's kind of more like, yeah, we'll go out there like once a year.
Yeah.
And we saw such a cool difference of like people coming back to shows a year later and bringing friends, or if like we weren't coming to that same town, they drove a couple hours to shows. And yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's one of those things like it nothing happens all at once a lot of the time. So it's just like little things like that feel good moments, other than like we've joked about like the meteoric, you know, I don't know if you saw the Elvis movie, but like those types of things.
Yeah. I think definitely if you guys are looking to do more shows in the Midwest, you should add Michigan on that list. I go to school out in Michigan, so.
Is that where you are now?
That's where I am right now, yeah.
Okay, yeah, send us some ideas. Like, would be happy to take a look. We haven't been out there yet. We've done Wisconsin, and I think we're gonna be in Wisconsin. I guess maybe late August or something. But send us some ideas. We'd love to come.
I know a few venues that are always open to host multiple bands,
Great.
So I can definitely send them your way.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
We'd love to come. Are you in like Detroit or Ann Arbor or?
I'm in East Lansing. I go to Michigan State.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I wish I could say like, yeah, I know where that is, like exactly, but.
You know what? I honestly didn't know where the school was until I came here, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you be home this summer in Portland?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be home this summer.
Cool. Well, yeah, message us on Instagram and let us know. Yeah, that might be a better way to track, just kind of like track that venue, and just know what's up there. And I'll pass it along to our booking guy. But thanks for chatting.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
I think we pretty much covered everything. My last question was just kind of about the whole Hawaii thing that you guys were going on.
I'll have more to say about it when we get back. We'll see. But we're really excited. We're really excited. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate you so much for kind of just like doing this, for letting me interview you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
It was fun. It was nice getting to be able to talk to you, and you were one of my more like chatty people that I've interviewed. So it's been very like fun getting to talk to you.
Well, thanks. Likewise, and like I think part of that was contributed. Just had a shot of espresso like 5 minutes before we talked.
So it hyped you up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a little hyped up about it. But no, thanks again, and keep in touch, and happy to talk. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing you post about all of the Hawaii stuff, and I'm looking forward to when your album does eventually come out.
Thank you.
And I did get to listen to your new song this morning, and I really enjoyed that as well.
Thanks so much. Yeah, go back and read the lyrics. I think they're on our Instagram story after we talked about it. But
well, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.